In order to get to the heart of Megadon, we must go back before recorded time. Before man gripped the earth, lupines and other fera walked the earth with lizard kings, great dragons like Megadon.
Oh, wait, what? No, that's from the werewolf one? Wrong spot, my bad. Oh, turn on.
Hi there, guys. Sorry about that little confusion. I'm Ross, a storyteller from Boston by Night, and today I've got a video for you all about Megadon, which is the last plot arc that we just did, so that we can prepare for the next one and we're all on the same page for it. So, without any further ado, let's just jump into the video. So, some background on Megadon before we get started. Megadon is the company which distributes Megadon, which is the flu drug which they came to Boston to distribute. They arrived sometime after the Bay Village massacre and started setting up clinics in order to distribute the flu shot for free. This was, of course, welcomed by many in the city, and soon enough, both regular mortals and members of herds and even ghouls had taken the shot. However, as we all know, nothing at these nights is free. Many onlookers began to notice that after getting the flu shot, many of the mortals and ghouls who had it were becoming more aggressive, but also a lot more fatigued. It was this behaviour which created a lot of distrust and unease amongst the kindred community, and several of their members began to investigate. So the plot hooks were set, and players could soon start getting involved in unravelling the mess which was Megadon. Thomas Giovanni and Lucette of Clan Tremere were two of the first to get involved, but many other players started to investigate in a variety of different ways. Lucette managed to infiltrate one of the facilities, and there she found a wormish creature which was siphoning off the life force of many who had taken the flu shot. She was captured after uncovering many secrets, and by the time she was confronted by the fiendish Dr. Shear, she didn't have much hope of escape. When she fell asleep and then eventually woke up the next night, she had been released, but she had also been blood bonded to Shear. Thomas Giovanni took another approach to uncovering Megadon's secret and used one of his spirit slaves to stake out one of their locations. He discovered that many of the wardens, some of whom had captured Lucette, had been black spiral dancers of one of the clans of Lupines, which were known for their affiliation with the worm. Unfortunately, Thomas's spirit slave was followed back to his haven, and soon he had black spiral dancers asking him to come out. He entered into a covenant with the creatures where he would provide sacrifices for them in exchange for his own life. At this point, more kindred were becoming concerned and entering into the fray. Sibylla, a prominent Tremere, and Shane, an Autarchus Bruja, who was one of the students of Prince Claude in Enteleki, were getting involved, as was the presumptive Baron of the Anarchs, Indy Montgomery. Their investigation and bringing together of many disparate interests proved that the link between the flu shot and the mortal rage and the drastic connotations thereof. More allies jumped on board, particularly from the Autarchus, who, with their lack of structure, were concerned that they may be picked off one by one and were more at risk from such predations as Megadon. However, the growing momentum hit a snag when Claude's ennui created an apathy within him. He was no longer so concerned with the night-to-night affairs of the Camarilla, and this matter simply did not interest him. Further, the Sabbat were in a precarious leadership position with no clear bishop to take the control of the situation. What is the only contender, Valerie, wanted nothing to do with the Megadon issue while she cemented her own position. Investigating a different lead based upon the werewolves which they were facing, Leon and Jessica, two of the autarkists involved in the search, went to the Franklin Park zoo, and there they found some other people preparing spears for a battle to come. After listening to their song, it became quite clear that the licks, or as the Lupines put it, the leeches within the city, were the ones who would soon be their victims. After a brief encounter in which Leon was impaled, they managed to parley on the edge of the woods. This would prove instrumental later on, for it proved that not only were these particular lupines disgusted by what was going on in the city and not affiliated with the Megadon problem, they also wanted to get rid of them. Perhaps in nights to come, the shared enemy would be what brought the two sides together. For a time, things quietened on the Megadon front. Many of the sects were looking inwards towards their own problems and had no time to deal with external threats. The Sabbat were finalising their leadership struggle, with Valerie Strigoi becoming sole bishop over Boston. Claude abdicated from the princedom and was soon followed by his successor when Alice's regime came to power. The Anarchs during this time managed to heal a rift which had grown in their ranks, and soon they were able to turn their efforts once more towards the wolves within their midst. However, it was not the combined might of the sects which dealt the next blow to Megadon. No, it was a ragtag group of mainly autarkists and fringe figures from within the various factions that managed to seek out a Megadon stronghold and strike at it. They managed to burn a warehouse to the ground with all of the many supplies within it, and made the next opening for them to continue their campaign. A new figure entered the stage, one who would seek to influence events for some time to come. The proprietor had been establishing the auction, which was a site on ShrekNet which would allow the bartering of goods and services across sects and between individuals. Very little was known about him. However, after the blow to the Megadon warehouse, he appeared claiming to be tasked with setting up a meeting between Shear and the representatives of the sects. After some back and forth, the sects managed to get into a coalition headed by Indy Montgomery and bid a significant amount of favours in order to get into the same room as Shear. Indy, Arabella and Beatrice attended the meeting, and soon they settled into the extremely low budget conference room at a local hotel. Shear was obstinate in her facing down of three kindred of quite potent blood. She stated that she wanted 3 doses of 8th generation Vitea, as well as 3 Cainite assistants, who it was not clear what would befall them. Even as the sects discussed what the high cost would be and if they could meet it, the proprietor entered the stage once more and offered them Shear's haven. Although it seemed quite clear that the shady figure was wanting to do away with Shear without bloodying his own hands, he was offering them a solution to their problems, and one which they took readily, albeit having to pay more boons to add to his already weighty stockpile. With Shear's haven in hand, the sects prepared to strike, but they were wary of their new shadowy ally, and they didn't want to fall into yet another trap. So instead they went to the other ally that they could call on, the Lupines from out of town who were not associated with the Megadon Corporation. After some liaising between them and the representative of the kindreds, Leon, they agreed to respect one another's boundaries and that the Lupines would strike out at this shared foe and clear them both of it once and for all. Soon into the night, there were more fires on the horizon, and Anna Shear was no more. So that concludes the Megadon arc and sets us up for the next story arc, which we hope to debut the next couple of days. We know this one kind of dragged a little bit, and so thank you all for your patience and for putting so much time into it. We hope to debut the next arc on Saturday with a big event, which will launch the Obelisk, which sounds awfully ominous, and I think you'll all enjoy it. So until then, keep your wits about you and keep an eye on the shadows. This is Ross, out. Oh yeah, before you go, a big thank you to our patrons. We couldn't do this or any of the other amazing stuff we do on the server without their support. If you like what we're doing here, and then leave a like and a comment, maybe even subscribe. And if you really like what we're doing, then come join the fun over on the Discord server. See you all in the next video.